Almost a year ago, I uploaded my last video. A lot has happened since then, and we have a lot of catching up to do. But we're going to do it while looking at a completely new project. I've officially moved on from how I was working before, and while this new one is still in the ugly phase with free assets everywhere, I'm ready to finally show you what I've been building. I'll explain the full story of where I've been at the end of the video, but for now, let's just get into the development. So whilst I'm setting up a testing scene in the background here, I wanted to use this time to talk more about the current project and some of the inspirations. So the game will be in 2D and the genre will be focusing on Souls-like / turn-based combat. Now, I understand that people have very different opinions on what makes a game truly Souls-like. Now, I don't want my project to feel limited in a sense to only one genre. Like, for example, one way I can merge Souls-like behavior with turn-based combat is giving the ability to dodge and parry during the combat. This will still give that pattern recognition with enemies that is often associated with Souls-like genre. Now, you might be saying to yourself, wow, that sounds just like Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And to that I say, you're absolutely right. I will not try to hide it in any way. That game is a miracle and I have been so obsessed with, and is really one of the major reasons why I'm even trying to create a project like this. Other inspirations have, of course, come from games like Bloodborne and Elden Ring, and I really love the art that Hollow Knight / Silksong has, so that is the art direction that I would be following with. Another mechanic that is associated with Souls-like that I want to utilize is, of course, the leveling system and the attribute system, where the player can choose what specific attributes to level up, and this in turn affects what kind of skills the player can use during combat. So you, as the player, will have the ability to choose your own combat styles. So now you might ask me, wow, I thought you said the art direction would be like Silksong. What is this? And to that I say, listen, these assets are completely free. I did not want to stare at squares and circles for the next year or so they are just completely temporary assets. Even the combat scene contains the same exact assets, just flipped and a darker color. It even came with some animations, although only 2 of them, one for idle and one for walk. But they still look good nonetheless. So let's get into some actual development. So as you can see, I have already created the most basic turn-based system you have probably witnessed. The player can choose between attack or heal, and the enemy just attacks the player based on a damage amount and a bit of randomness. Now it still needs a lot of work, as you can see. For example, like this little bug where I actually forgot to delete the enemy if the player wins. I also added cinema machine functionality, which allows me to work more on my camera system, like right now making the camera smoothly follow the player. I also added some invisible walls to the scene, so you can only see the environment background and not all the emptiness behind it. Another thing that I wanted to quickly showcase, which you players will never really care about, but that makes all the difference in the world during development, are these hierarchy colors. That just makes it so easier to differentiate between different things in the scene. Since I only have a few hours a week to work on this, I really need to stay organized. And that is exactly why I'm using these hierarchy colors. It helps me find exactly what I need the moment I open the project, so I don't waste my limited dev time searching for objects. Now, after doing all this work on the systems, I wanted to jump into something less intense, like animating the UI. So for example, having a nice fade into black when entering combat. I also made it so the enemies can have names now. And yes, her name is Dave, very original, but it can be whatever we want, even George. I also made it so that the skills are not showing when it is not the player's turn, with a nice animation of course. Now looking at the footage, it seems like whenever the player attacks, he gets dealt damage. And I just want to let you know, before you write in the comments that my combat system is broken, after the player attacks, it is immediately the enemy's turn. And the enemy can only attack right now. But since we have no way of showing it is currently the enemy's turn, it might seem like the player gets dealt damage from out of nowhere. But it's actually the enemy dealing the damage. So yeah, it is correct. Now, before we move on to one of the last systems I want to show you today, if you made it this far into the video, I'm just gonna assume that you're actually enjoying the devlog. And if that's the case, it would help me out a ton if you hit the like button and subscribe if you want to follow the journey. I also love to hear your thoughts on the project so far in the comments. Feedback is very important at this early stage. With that said, let's talk about one of the most important mechanics, parrying and dodging. I felt like this feature is a crucial element in combat, and that's why I want to start with it early in development. So simply, the only thing I'm doing is whenever it's the enemy's turn, I read specific player input. Currently that is set to Q for parry and E for dodge. The logic that I have right now for parry is that if the player manages to parry correctly, they take no damage and instead the enemy takes damage. But if the player manages to dodge, they only take 40% of the damage they would have been given. To help both myself and you, the viewers, I even visualize the parry and dodge windows using colors. So blue for parry and green for dodge. Of course, if the user decides to dodge, even if parry window is active, that is still allowed. One problem that I have currently with the system is that the user can just keep spamming the parry button, and it is pretty much a guarantee that they will manage to parry. So in a future update, I will have to make some sort of a countdown or make the system a bit differently to fix that. But for now, it works great. Now, going completely off script, I want to talk about my previous project. Now, as you may or may not know, I have not uploaded to this channel in almost one whole year now, and it is safe to assume that I have not done any work on the previous project. It's just after a while I didn't feel like I was moving anywhere with the project, and I started feeling this way even before releasing my previous video. It just felt like I was too deep into the project and I already spent so many hours on it that I didn't want to let go. Like, I tried setting up milestones, even like writing a story or something for myself that helps me kind of see the finish line, but it was just not working out. And so I made the decision after a month-ish after the last video to kind of stop the project. And at that moment, I just felt that I let down everyone who supported the projects, through comments, likes, and even during the streams. And it put a very mental toll on me. And the thing is, I wanted to make a quick video about stopping the project. I just could not find the words to explain what I felt. So I think now I can actually say I apologize for stopping the project, but I just had to. I just didn't feel like I was going anywhere, and it's very hard working on something without the passion. So yeah, I hope this kind of, clears the air, but this is what I'm currently passionate about, and I hope you will be as supportive of this project as you did the previous one. Last thing I also want to mention before moving on is that I have a full-time job now, so it will be very tough for me to be consistent with my uploadings, so just be wary of that. Also, if this is the first time you're watching the channel, I apologize for rambling about this for so long. I just had to get this off my chest. But you are more than welcome to check out the videos about the previous project if you want to see more from me. Of course, now you kind of get spoiled ending since you know the project is stopped, but oh well. Anyways, I seriously hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment what you think about the new projects. Any improvements, any suggestions, everything is welcome. Until next time, bye!